What is an average timeline that you could expect if you're applying for a marriage-based green card? Hey guys, my name is Marcus Wabschall. I'm an immigration attorney and I'm the founding attorney of Veritas Immigration Law, which is an immigration-only law firm located in South Florida. We handle a pretty high volume of marriage-based green cards, specifically people who are going through the adjustment of status process. And I want to give you guys a good idea of what to expect when you're going through that process. A lot of people approach us and they want, before they are ready to start submitting paperwork, they want to know what to expect. And that's a very good and fair question to ask. And so I want to put this video out there to help educate people up front what to expect when you're going through this process, because it can be a very sophisticated process, and it's better if you as a client can go through this process knowing what to expect, so that you're able to manage your expectations during the process. This video is not intended to replace any kind of legal advice that you might need. Okay, so these are basically I've just laid out 6 basic steps that you're going to go through during the adjustment of status process. So the first thing that we need to do is after a client would retain us, the first thing that happens is a phase of case document collection and case preparation. So what this entails is, in order to accurately create all of your applications for the adjustment of status, we have to collect a lot of details about the petitioner and the beneficiaries. So this involves collecting a lot of any information about your immigration history, your status, your family background, and just all kinds of different demographic and biographical questions about the people involved in the petitioning process. So what we will do is we'll send you a checklist of all the documents that we need and a questionnaire to help us gather all that information. And once we have all that information that we need from you to accurately prepare all of your applications, then we put it all together into one big package for submission to the Immigration Service. That process normally takes us about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, so that's just an average amount of time that it takes us. Sometimes it can take a little more, or sometimes if the client is really motivated and organized, we can get it done faster than that. But to give us enough time to make sure that everything is done properly and carefully, it's usually going to be around 2 to 3 weeks to get that prepared. So a big part of that is communication, and we need to have good communication with the client in order to make sure that that gets done in an efficient way, so people don't get frustrated during that important phase. So again, that takes about 2 to 3 weeks. So after we submit your applications, the first thing that's going to really happen is within probably the first 10 to 14 days after we send this physical package to the Immigration Service, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to send you a whole bunch of letters in the mail, and they're going to be receipt notices. And the receipt notices are a super important part of your case because, first of all, it's going to give you your priority date if you are in need of a priority date based on your category. But it's also going to give you a case number, and your case number is extremely important because you need that in order to reference the particular application. So each application that you submit to the Immigration Service, whether it's the I-130, the I-485, the I-765, the I-131, each one of those applications is going to have a receipt number associated with it. So if you want to look up information about that particular application, you got to have that receipt number. So those are very important to have, and you'll get those within about the first 10 to 14 days. Usually around that same time, sometimes a little bit after you get the receipt notices, you'll get another letter in the mail, and that is also going to come from USCIS, but it's going to be your biometrics appointment notice. Biometrics is just a very simple appointment that the beneficiary of a petition will have to attend. It's very, very simple. You just got to go into a local immigration field office, and they'll take your fingerprints and they'll take your picture. And it's really simple. It usually takes 10 minutes. It's not an intimidating appointment or meeting. Usually the people in the office are very friendly. They do these all the time. And so it's just a very simple thing that you'll need to complete usually around that 2-week mark. Sometimes it's like 2 to 3 weeks. But for most people, I see that come around 2 weeks after the filing of the applications. The next thing that's going to happen after you complete your biometrics is you should be receiving your employment authorization approvals and your social security number if you don't already have one. You will not get those things before your biometrics are done. Okay, so you got to get your biometrics done as soon as you can, preferably on that first date they give you. So sometimes people have to reschedule because they're sick or they're traveling or something like that. But it's better if you can just do your biometrics as soon as possible so that immigration can keep processing your application and you can get that employment authorization as soon as possible. I know that's important to a lot of people. So based on where we are in the United States, we're here in South Florida. I usually see employment authorizations come around the 60 to 90 day mark. So after you complete your biometrics, maybe it'll be a month or 2 months after you complete that appointment. But usually, for the majority of cases, I would say within like the first 3 months after the filing, you should be getting your employment authorization and your social security in the mail. So those will come as 2 separate documents. So you'll get like you'll get a letter, like an approval letter, to let you know that your employment has been approved or your employment authorization has been approved. But then you'll also get like a physical card. It looks like a little driver's license with your picture on it and your fingerprint. And you can use that to go and work, as long as you also get your social security, which typically will come around the same time. There's some odd cases that happen where it takes the social security longer to come, but that's not in the majority of cases. Usually they come right around the same time. So that's kind of the nice thing about how this is set up. So this whole process is going to take about 10 to 12 months to complete, but around that 60 to 90 day mark, you are able to work. So you're not just kind of sitting around for 10 or 12 months with nothing to do. If work is important for you and a pressing need, then you will have that authorization fairly quickly after the filing of the applications. If you need to, usually once you have your employment authorization document, you can also use that to go and get, at least in Florida, you can go and get a driver's license. You would just need to present all of your application receipts, your EAD, and your I-94, and just like all of your immigration documents, along with your EAD, present it to the Driver's License Bureau, and you should be able to get a driver's license. For step number 5, I put request for evidence. So a request for evidence is something that's we obviously try to avoid in the initial filing, which is why we try to do as thorough a job as possible at the beginning, in the initial filing, so we can avoid a request for evidence. But sometimes it's out of your control, and it's not. It's just something that immigration may or may not send you. A request for evidence can come in at any time along the process, but normally it's going to come either around the biometrics time or around the time before you get your employment authorization. So if for some reason there's some document that you weren't able to submit in the initial filing, you're going to get a request for evidence asking you for that document. So that might be a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, or it might be additional evidence to show that your marriage is bona fide. These requests for evidence will normally give you somewhere between 30 and 90 days to respond to it. If you're organized, usually it's not something to be concerned about, but it will present a short delay in the adjudication of your case. So again, depending on how organized you and your attorney are, you can respond to that fairly quickly. And once immigration receives your response to the request for evidence, they will continue processing your case. After you get your employment authorization and your social security, If you're not getting requests for evidence, then you may actually have a kind of extended period of time where there's really not much activity going on, or you don't hear anything from immigration. And so that's why I just kind of put in step 6, I just put final approvals, somewhere around the 10 to 12 month mark. So there could be 4, 5, or even 6 months where you don't hear anything from immigration. And this is usually around the time when clients start calling and asking for updates because they want to know what's going on. And they don't, they get, when there's just months and months of silence, they get nervous. A lot of clients get nervous. But what we try to tell our clients is to just set the expectation at the beginning, right? So we just say, hey, there's probably going to be, 4 to 6 months where you just don't hear anything. And there's just not a whole lot of like updates that we can give you. I can't really give you updates for what is, when the case is just under review, but there's nothing like outstanding. There's nothing missing. Immigration isn't asking us for anything. It's just under review and it's just processing. So I try to set that expectation with clients at the beginning, so not to be pestering, immigration or pestering us with constant requests for updates because, ahead of time that there's just going to be a period of time where it's just, you're not going to hear much news. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Just because it's quiet doesn't mean something is wrong. So these things just take time. And these days, at least in our local field office and where we're located, we usually see it take 10 to 12 months for an application to get approved. So what's normally going to happen at the end of the process is either you're going to get an approval in the mail. Immigration will just waive your interview requirement and they'll just issue you the approvals in the mail. So you'll just get like an approval letter in the mail and your green card in the mail, and you won't really hear anything else from immigration, and that's when you know your case is done. Or for some people, you'll actually get a letter in the mail that tells you that you and your spouse have to go for the interview. And if you get called for the interview, that just means you and your spouse will have to go in person to a local field office and sit down with an immigration officer just like this, and that immigration officer will ask you questions just to verify that your relationship and your marriage is bona fide or in good faith. If there's, for some reason, if there's something about your application that the immigration officer is unclear about or uncertain about or suspicious about, that's usually what could trigger a possible interview. Or if there was a request for evidence that was sent out and the response wasn't strong, but it's not disqualifying, that could trigger an interview. So it's just one of those things that can just be outside of your control. It just may be that they want to interview you, and there's just nothing, doesn't mean anything is wrong or bad, but it's just something that you have to do to complete the process. We will always coach and help you if you do get called for an interview with your spouse. That's something that we would always attend with you and coach you through so you can be well prepared for that interview. So if you are applying for a marriage-based green card through the adjustment of status, that is the process that you can expect to unfold, and those are some general timelines that you can also expect during the process. If you guys have any case-specific questions that are unique to you, you're always welcome to give us a call. Our telephone number is on the screen. Our receptionists are always ready to answer the phone and get you scheduled for a consultation so you can get the answers to the questions that you have.